Good day once again, boxing lovers. Speaking to you is Swaggy K. As y'all know I'm an artist. Maybe this is me reintroducing myself. I do not know, but interestingly, I'm doing it. So why not? Um, so yeah, this is Swaggy K, an artist. Go search Swaggy K here on YouTube. Go subscribe. Kindly subscribe to my music channel. I think right now we are sitting on 108 subscribers, which is very impressive. I'm proud of myself because I've never even reached 100 subscribers like before, you feel me? So having more than that means a lot. So now we're trying to get to 200. So please subscribe, listen to the music. You will not be disappointed. As y'all can see my profile picture, I'm also a graduate. So yeah, man, we trying, we pushing. Anyways, I'm not gonna talk about that. This is not about necessarily myself. Not gonna lie, this is about a very interesting fight. This is about the fight that is gonna take place at Allegiant Stadium, if I'm not mistaken. I think on the 14th of September. This is about the fight between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terence Bud Crawford. I haven't really done an analysis based on this fight, so found time. So yeah, this is it. Let me give y'all a breakdown of how I think this fight will pan out. As we all know, we know that Canelo is a come forward fighter, not necessarily a pressure cooker, because he does come forward, but he takes his time. He mostly uses his experience, his ring generalship. Sometimes he can take a few steps back. He can move a little bit if he wants to, recap and to read his opponent. But nonetheless, he's a come forward fighter. As you all know, he has power in both hands, but as of late, he hasn't been knocking people out. As far as I can remember, the last time he knocked someone out was when he fought against the talented Caleb Plant. In what was a very one-sided fight, one-sided beatdown. I feel like Plant was, he's fast on his feet, but during that fight, I feel like Canelo showed that he has it all. Canelo has some underrated speed too, but he's not necessarily fast, but he is very accurate. I don't know whether y'all get what I'm saying, but he does have an element of speed according to his past, his fights versus the likes of you know Triple G. He did display that he's a body snatcher. He's a body snatcher. When he was very young, fighting against the likes of Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., he did show his speed. He has fought against the likes of he has fought a lot of great fighters. Yeah, but in his last fight against William Skull, if Skull was moving but at the same time throwing more punches, William Skull could have easily won that fight. But I guess he respected, Canelo just for who he is generally, and also his power, because he was moving a lot. And also Canelo, on the other hand, he wasn't really impressive on that fight, but then he did get the nod. So on to the next. He is now going to fight against Terence Bud Crawford. Canelo has fought against the likes of Erislandi Lara in a fight which I think was very close. It could have went either way. Many people think Lara won. Some argue that no, Canelo did enough. But what I can say about that fight, because I was watching it live, what what I can say about that fight is the fact that Canelo is not unbeatable. Canelo is not invisible. Yeah, if that makes sense. Canelo is a great fighter. He has power, but there's a difference between Canelo and Floyd, obviously, because he has also fought Floyd, and we all know how that went. It was a one-sided beatdown. Um, Against Lara, I feel like Lara was also taking, unnecessary shots, but he did outbox him. But the question is, was it enough? Which, of course, it wasn't, because the fight went Canelo's way. He also displayed his speed against fighters such as, Austin Trout. He definitely did. And he also knocked this one guy out. I think he had 40 something fights with one loss. I just forgot his name, but oh, it is James Kirkland. Yeah, it is James Kirkland. He also knocked out James Kirkland, who at the time only had one loss, winning almost all his fights by knockout. Canelo did say it himself that the fight against James Kirkland was a fight which he he felt like he fought, the hardest puncher, he has ever faced. He has stated this in many interviews, hence why he decided to end the fight early. I think the fight ended in round 2 or 3, but it ended very early. That was a terrible knockout. Like, that was not terrible, that was a beautiful knockout. Don't get it twisted, but I feel like the way that James Kirkland fell, I feel like that was bad. Like, it was a vicious knockout. Yeah, it was a vicious knockout. Kudos to Canelo for pulling that off. That was a great knockout for him, and I feel like he did it in the most beautiful fashion ever. It was monstrous for real. Yeah, and yeah, Canelo has a lot of power. He he does have angles. He does use angles. Canelo does use angles. If you would watch his fights against the likes of James Kirkland, like I said, Caleb Plant, there are also highlights here on YouTube, whereby these boxing, scientists will tell you that this is how these AI robots or people, no disrespect, but they will tell you and actually show you that this is how Canelo sets up his punches. He first, waits for you to throw the right hand, and then he goes to the side and throws a left hook to the body, something like that. So Canelo is a body snatcher. He has a great jab. However, he is not defensively responsible. Yeah, because he is, like I said, beatable. But kudos to him again, due to the fact that he has a great chin, so he can take a punch and also deliver one. We have seen this, of course, in a fight that I personally think that was the most exciting, Canelo fight. I'm talking about his fight against Triple G, Gennady Triple G Golovkin. I think they fought 3 times, if I'm not mistaken, of which Canelo won the first one. The second one was a draw, which I think Triple G won, man. But then, yeah, it was a draw. Very controversial, but it could have went either way. But I think Triple G did just enough to win the second one. And then the third one, Canelo won. Clearly, fair and square. And there have been disputes that, Canelo at the time was not a clean fighter. Allegedly, all of this is alleged. I'm not painting anyone with anything. And yeah, like, I'm from South Africa, so I doubt anyone would make a thing of what I'm saying. But yeah, allegedly they said that Canelo had been taking, computerol, yeah, steroids, all that stuff. Even Floyd Mayweather came out and made a video, steroids, all that stuff. So that was a very, I won't say difficult, but that was that like the whole situation was just controversial in a way, but then either way, that's how the fights went. And according to the fights, without talking about anything else, steroids and stuff, I feel like, yeah, that's where Canelo was showcasing elements of his game, and such as his speed, power, combinations, counter punching techniques. But he doesn't do much of bobbing and weaving, because there's no need to. He is who he is. He can like win a fight without doing so. Now we are on to Terrence Bud Crawford. Um, Bud is like my favorite fighter, bro. I won't lie. I was against him in his fight against Errol Spence Jr. I won't lie, I wasn't a big fan of Bud because I felt like he hadn't been tested and all that stuff. If I would criticize myself, it's like I never really watched Bud, like, when he was coming up, because I have been doing a lot of film study on Bud, and Bud has been in fights, in real fights, and he actually has a great resume than most boxers, and people, underestimate his, resume due to the fact that when he fought fighters such as, Indigo from Africa, they weren't really well known. Fighters like Ricky Burns, Kell Brook, it's a lot, man. But there's this one fighter that he fought at the time that I did know, that I was a big fan of, and that is Hank Lundy. And Bud stopped him. Bud stopped him. Bud stopped Hank Lundy. If you know Hank Lundy, then you know that that nigga was a problem. Hank Lundy was like, I was a super fan of Hank Lundy. I won't lie. I was a super fan. I used to watch him on ESPN. It was Hank Lundy and Kendall Holt. It was Hank Lundy. It was also Kendall Holt, and it was also Jared Hurd. If you would listen, cause like there are old songs of mine. There's a song called Hustlin'. Yeah, there's a song called Hustlin'. I actually mentioned, Jared Hurd because I made it like during the time. I think it was in 2015, 2016. I was a super fan of Hank Lundy, Kendall Holt. I also mentioned Kendall Holt and, Jared Hurd. Like, I was a super fan of those fighters. So, Bud Crawford beat Hank Lundy. If you know Hank Lundy, then you're gonna know that Hank Lundy was a beast, bro. He was like, I just liked how he fought, his speed. He fought like Andre Berto. I feel like him and Andre Berto had similar styles, but Berto was more powerful than Hank Lundy, and he, achieved more in his career than Hank Lundy. But yeah, Bud beat Hank Lundy, which I was a super fan of, and I really, respect that. But even Hank Lundy at the time wasn't necessarily a big name, which could get Bud the respect that he deserves. Bud beat fighters like Sean Porter. Bud beat a lot of fighters, man. Gamboa, Benavides, Jose Benavides Jr. We all know that one of the best fighters in the world right now is his brother, David Benavides. The Mexican monster, who is currently the reigning WBC light heavyweight champion of the world, and is also scheduled to fight against Anthony Yard in a very tough fight. I feel like that's going to be a great fight. So I feel like Bud Crawford is a great fighter. He is very experienced. He has beaten a lot of great fighters. And there's also a number of fighters that, I didn't mention even right now. He has also beaten Mean Machine. There's a fighter that goes by the nickname Mean Machine. I just forgot his name. But beat that guy. And back to Jose Benavides Jr. But, like, that was a close fight, bro. That was a very close fight. And he beat Benavides in his prime, like when Benavides was strong, when he didn't even have many losses. When Benavides was I'm talking about Jose, not David, because David is obviously undefeated. Even Jose Benavidez at the time, he was, yeah, he was him, bro. Like, yeah. But stopped him in round 12. Do you know how difficult it is to stop someone in round 12? Like, I've never been a boxer, but I know, bro, because imagine fighting from round 1 to 12. That's like an hour, you know? Like, each round takes 3 minutes, so you can, do the math. But they fought in a very close fight, which could have went either way if it went to the scorecards. But Bud stopped him in round 12. He got cracked in the fight against Gamboa, stopped him. Bud is him, bro. Bud is him. And during this whole time, this whole process, the world was still looking down on him. He also beat, of course, the Truth, a fighter that I adore, bro. Errol Spence Jr. No Diddy, no homo, but yeah, Errol Spence Jr. I was also a big fan of his. I'm sure we all were. I still am. He stopped Errol Spence Jr. and it was a one-sided fight, one-sided beatdown. And in his most recent outing, which was a couple months ago, against Israel Majimov, he beat him and he was moving up from 147 to 154. He beat him, and people, funny enough, people were or still are criticizing Bud, talking about the fact that he took unnecessary punches. Majimov shouldn't have went the full 12 rounds with Crawford, and the fight was a robbery. I'm like, nah, that wasn't a robbery. That was a win for Bud. That was a clear win for Bud. And because I was also watching that fight live. That fight was a fight whereby Crawford proved himself, like in the fight against Majimov. Considering the fact that he was moving from 147 to 154. And that was his first fight at 154. Majimov had been campaigning in the 154 division his whole career, but beat him. Mind you, Majimov is awkward. He's very slick, very fast, very powerful. Has a lot of fundamentals in his game. Majimov is a great fighter. But he lost that fight against Crawford, and I give Crawford full credit for that because Majimov is still gonna beat a lot of great fighters. So yeah, that was a great win for Bud. So like, I feel like Crawford has came a long way, bro. And as for their, resumes, people say that Canelo has the best resume. Nah, bro. I feel like if we are speaking factually, it's 50-50. It's really 50-50. Because the fight against Spence was supposed to be a war. It was labeled, I think it was labeled as like the fight of the century or something. When Bud made it like very easy, like that wasn't even close. Bud stopped him, and it was just sad to watch, man. Like seeing Errol Spence getting beat like that, and credit to him, man. He took his loss like a man, and hopefully he's gonna come back. Even if it doesn't, I feel like he is a Hall of Famer, and yeah, man, he's well off. But I wouldn't mind, man. Spence is different. He's different, man. So yeah, I feel like Bud and Canelo is a perfect matchup. Mind you, Bud is a natural 147 pounder, moving up to 168. Even Canelo has been a 147 pounder before, but the difference is he has been in the 168 division longer than Bud, of which Bud is gonna be campaigning in that division for the first time. That's the super middleweight division, which Bud will be campaigning in for the first time. So I feel like people are saying that Canelo is gonna win that fight due to the weight difference. People are saying that Bud is going to be too small for Canelo. It's a lot of things that are being said, but I believe in Bud. Bud turned me into a believer, bro. Into a believer. Bud can, you feel me, do anything. Bud is gonna outbox him, bro. I feel like Bud has power, speed, but he has been tested before against the fight against Gamboa, and he had wobbly legs and all that stuff. But credit to Bud, he stopped him. Canelo has never really been tested before. In fact, he has a great chin, so he takes punches and gives them back. Canelo had also fought against the likes of Jamal Iron Man Charlo. Charlo was a middleweight, if I'm not mistaken, and he went up to super middleweight to face Canelo. It was champion against champion. Like, Charlo was undisputed in the middleweight division, and Canelo was undisputed in the super middleweight division. So I feel like this is gonna be a great fight. Okay, so who do I think is gonna win the fight? Man, I think Bud is gonna win the fight, bro. I might be wrong. I might be mistaken. But I think Bud can pull it off, bro. I feel like he had more time to prepare. The fact that he never fought after the fight against Israel Majimov, that was a game plan on his own. I feel like he needed more time to get some muscle, to get some man strength, to get some speed, to just be fully prepared for, Canelo. Because he knows that Canelo isn't more, faster than him, slick as him, is not as flexible as him. And what Canelo can do, I really think Bud can do better. But of course, yes, the weight might be an issue. I might be wrong for picking Bud, but I think Bud is gonna win this fight by unanimous decision. I would be shocked if it would stop Canelo. I think Bud is gonna win by unanimous decision. I feel like Bud is very experienced. I feel like Canelo isn't able to stop people at this point in his career. That's how I feel. Tell me how y'all feel. Please subscribe for more content, more interviews with boxers. Yeah, man, subscribe. I appreciate everyone who's watching. Like the video, share the video, share the link. Keep subscribing. I'm trying to grow my channel. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. I'm out.